All right, everybody, let's go live. Chuck Holton here, coming to you from West Virginia today. I was in Wisconsin yesterday and flew from Wisconsin to my place in West Virginia. Got a couple things to do here at the lodge, and then I'll be here for the rest of this week. So, a lot going on over in the Middle East, as usual. We're going to be talking about what's going on with the Houthis because there's a secret military base or airstrip that's being built just off the coast of Yemen. And as I did a little digging into that, I actually found out that there's actually several different air bases that have been built on islands out in the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden around Yemen. We're going to talk about who's building them, who's paying for them, what they're there for. And also, they had a huge funeral in Yemen for their prime minister who was killed in airstrikes and more. I mean, the Houthis actually took hostages over the last couple of days from the United Nations. And, you know, the media is not saying anything about that. So we're going to talk about that as well. A lot of uncertainty. Uncertainty, as you know, causes the markets to climb a wall of worry. And if you are near or at retirement, you need to be careful about having your 401k or your IRA or whatever purely in stocks or mutual funds or that sort of thing, because the markets are extremely volatile now, and they're going to continue to be that way for at least the next several years. So if you're within 5 years of retirement, you probably want to diversify a little bit into gold. Now, my friends over at Preserve Gold do a great job of educating people as to how they can take physical gold, not like gold contracts or gold, ETFs or something like that, but actual physical gold and putting it into your IRA or 401k. Now, you can't keep it at home if you're doing that. You have to have like a vault that they put it in. And Preserve Gold can show you how to do that, where, look, gold is up more than 40% this year. That means you almost doubled your money if you had started buying gold back at the beginning of the year. And that is spectacular. Gold is reaching new highs, and I think it's going to continue to happen. Not only that, they also sell silver and palladium and platinum and things like that. Silver, I think, might have more upside than gold even does. And again, they will help you put that into your 401k or IRA if you want to do that. Or you can just have the gold, stack it up at home. So if you want to be smart and diversify your money, check out Preserve Gold. Go to the website there, preservegold.com/hotzone, or text the word Chuck to 50505. And thank you to Preserve Gold for sponsoring today's podcast. Now, let's talk about what's going on in Yemen. The Houthis have been really cracking down on the United Nations and World Food Program and other agencies that are in Yemen trying to feed the people. Now, I went out and did a quick search, and it didn't take me long to find video of starving children in Yemen. And I was going to show it to you here, but then I decided, you know what, it'll probably get me demonetized because it's pretty graphic. These kids are just skin and bones. Just amazing how what bad a shape they're in. They've had more than 84,000 children die in Yemen. Everybody talks about the famine in Gaza. There is no famine in Gaza, but there certainly is a famine in Yemen. And the media just doesn't really want to cover that because, as many people say, no Jews, no news, right? So there definitely is famine in Yemen and has been for more than a decade. And the Houthis are not helping that at all. The UN, the World Food Program, other agencies have set up shop in various parts of Yemen to try to get food in there to the people that are starving. And the Houthis just are being a nuisance, really. I mean, they're just, it's like a bunch of punks, just young idiots that you need to get slapped around a little bit. Well, the Houthis are just a bunch of, sheep herders, camel herders that that Iran has been arming and made them into a proxy to strike at Israel. So they've hit more than 100 ships since the beginning of the war. They've attacked more than 100 ships, and that obviously has had a huge impact on the number of ships that are going through the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden, Bab el-Mandeb Straits, and all that. Actually, about the only ships that will go through there anymore are ships that buy off the Houthis. The Houthis can actually make money by threatening those ships, and then the ships have to basically bribe the Houthis not to attack their ships. And so China does that. Iran obviously is, moving ships through there. And Iran has said in the last 2 days that they plan to dramatically increase their support for the Houthis and try to, because really the Houthis are the only proxy that Iran has left. So Hezbollah is not being very helpful to the Iranian cause up in Lebanon. Obviously, Hamas is kind of on the ropes in Gaza. We'll talk more about that in a minute. And so the Houthis are where it's at for Iran. They've also tried to make some new proxy forces in like Sudan and places like that. That hasn't gone real well. But what can the Houthis really do? They can't march on Israel. The only thing they're really able to do is shoot missiles and drones at Israel, and that's more of a nuisance than anything. They have mostly failed to even do damage to Israel, even get their missiles to Israel. In many cases, Israel doesn't even bother setting off the air raid sirens when they see something coming in from Yemen, because they just say, well, we'll wait and see. And if it breaks Israeli airspace, then we'll fire up the air raid sirens, because why send people running for shelter when in many cases those missiles or drones don't even make it into Israel? And they've had those drones and missiles that have actually fallen in Saudi Arabia, in Egypt, and in Jordan. And those countries haven't really done anything to, dissuade the Houthis. I guess Saudi Arabia was at war with the Houthis for like a decade, and they were bombing the Houthis every day. And it didn't really do much to the Houthis because there's not much to bomb. I mean, as I always say, Yemen is basically a big dirt parking lot. There's not a lot there. And so we can take a look at that by going to the map, and we can look at the airstrips that are being built around Yemen. So let me get to that page. Let's see here. So this is the one that was built earlier this year out in the Gulf of Aden. There's a runway on this tiny little island called Kinshia Island, something like that. And if we zoom in on this, you can see where they were starting to build this airstrip the last time the satellites took pictures. And there'll be another airstrip off here to the right and one here. Now, that airstrip is largely completed now. I have some video or some photographs of what it looks like now. Let's see if I can find that. Just a second. Wait a minute. Oh, I am positive I put it in there. So let me see if I can put that in there. Okay, here we go. Get rid of that. And bear with me, folks. Do me a favor, post in the chat where you're watching from. I see a lot of people are doing that already, and that is pretty cool. But I'd really like to go back and read that later on. So, okay, here we go. I'm not sure how this will be sized correctly or not, but we'll see here. Let's see how that works. Okay, here's the map. This is the new airstrip that's being built just off that. I'll show you that one in a minute, but this is the older one. Look at this. It's looking pretty good. We'll zoom in on it a little bit here, and you can see that it's all but completed. They haven't completed the other one, the other airstrip that they're planning on, but you can see that they're making good progress. It would be absolutely horrific to actually be, um, stationed out there. This is the other one as well. So go back to the map here. Uh, so they have that airstrip there on this desert island off the coast of Yemen. Now they're building another airstrip just south of Hodeidah. Where's Hodeidah? Well, let's pull it up here. This island that's just down here, just outside the Bab el-Mandab Strait, and Hodeidah is right here. As you know, Israel has been striking Hodeidah a lot, especially the port and the power infrastructure and that sort of thing there. And now this is the Houthis don't control too much further south than that. And the question is, who is building these airstrips? Well, we know that the United Arab Emirates has been uh, helping to build these airstrips because the UAE doesn't like the Houthis either. It would not surprise me if the United States didn't have something to do with this. These are not the Houthis creating these airstrips. These are being made by the enemies of the Houthis to strike back at them, uh, to try to help push the Houthis out, try to help safeguard ships in the region, that sort of thing. Now, down here in Aden is still controlled by the anti-Houthi Yemen, the actual government of Yemen. This is the legitimate elected government of Yemen. And those people have not been super friendly to the United States either. Look at this. It's just a real garden spot here. Looks like the surface of this of Mars or something. There's a lot of rock and a lot of desert out there, but Aden is a city that's under control of the anti-Houthi forces who would like to push the Houthis out. So the United States and the UK and others have been investing a lot in those forces to try to get the Yemeni forces up to speed enough where they can go against the Yemenis themselves. Or go against the Houthis themselves. And it has not been very successful, I have to say. The United States has troops on the ground in Yemen trying to train these Yemeni soldiers to go take out the Houthis. The UK has got some special forces in there. Others have been sending money to assist with that, like Saudi Arabia and the UAE. The problem is none of these people like each other. And there are various factions of the non-Houthi Yemenis who are kind of all at each other's throats. And what we found is that no matter how many troops we send down there to train them, these guys can't get along with each other long enough to, actually get anything accomplished. So they're always killing each other, always fighting each other, and they just don't have enough unity yet to push out the Houthis. The Houthis are very happy to see their people starved. They're hoping to be able to pull the same stunt that Hamas did by claiming that the famine and all that is the fault of Israel. That's not the case. That famine was going on long before Israel got involved in Yemen. But these new airfields are going to serve the purpose of helping to forward deploy forces that can sort of keep a handle on the Houthis going forward. It'll make the trip right now. If we'll go back to the map here for a second. If Israel wants to strike at the Houthis, they got to come from way up here, like Netivot Air Base, which is down here in the down around this area, something like that. And so it's more than 1,000. Only got 700 people on. All right. So we're going to try that. I don't have a great connection. I'm not sure what happened to my internet. It looks like it just died. There have been some major internet problems lately. Actually, I just saw an article about that today. There's actually the top line article on the Drudge Report is that says internet meltdown. And so there's some kind of outage in the internet, which is probably affecting our live stream today. Um, the story says that half the internet went down after Amazon cloud outage left millions unable to use Ring Alexa banking apps. And they say they can't rule out that it's not a cyber attack. So would not put it past Russia, China, Iran to create a cyber attack like this. Obviously, taking half the internet down is going to disrupt lots and lots of things. Right now, I'm using my cellular service, so I'll keep using that. We'll just see if obviously the connection or the video quality is not going to be as good, but uh, you guys tell me, have you guys had any other problems with the internet today? Uh, I hadn't had too many problems with it until just now. So I don't know. It may be something that has to do with this cyber attack that looks like is happening, making the whole internet around the globe melt down. Now, let's get back to these hostages. The Houthi rebels detained about 20 UN staffers in Sana'a. 5 of them were from Yemen. They're Yemeni employees of the UN. And 15 of them were international employees when the Houthis raided their UN facility and seized some of their comms equipment. They also seized computers and paperwork and everything from there. Uh, that brings the total of people that the Houthis have held hostage in their country to 54. So, everybody's rightly up in arms about the hostages that are not being returned to Israel, but that's a, there's a growing problem in Yemen for Yemenis taking hostages. Now, if you recall, I've been talking about this and saying that this was going to happen. Uh, the events that took place after October 7th, where they took 250 hostages into Gaza, and it's now taken 2 years to get them back. That I mean, it's a great thing that Israel has been able to get its hostages back, its living ones back. There are still 16 of them that have not been uh, given back. Here's a Here's a picture of those 16. Let's see, make that picture a little smaller so you can see them all. Okay. These are the 16 hostages that have not been returned in Gaza. All of them are believed to be deceased. So these are the bodies that they're waiting for. And so that's getting a lot of press. As a lot of people are real concerned about that. But what about the 54 hostages that are in Yemen? Now, again, these are not only Yemenis that they're holding hostage. They are international group of people. We don't know all of their nationalities, but I was able to look up a few of them.
and they were from places like, let's see if I can find that. Where'd my notes go on that? So the nationalities are one British guy. His name is Peter Hawkins. He's a UNICEF representative for Yemen. He's being held hostage. Uh, there's a Japanese person uh, from UNICEF that's being held hostage. Lebanese person, several Egyptian people, a Serbian, a Georgian, and a Filipino. So that accounts for 8 of the 15 international detainees from this last round. But again, there's a grand total of 54. One of them, they believe, has died in captivity. And some of these are not UN representatives. They're the crews of the ships that the Houthis have taken over. They've been holding them. I mean, can you imagine? You're just trying to make a living. You're some Indonesian guy or Filipino guy or whatever, and you're working for $11 a day on a ship. You don't get off the ship very much. Just trying to bank some money for your family. And through no fault of your own, the ship gets boarded by the Houthis. They take over your ship and they throw you in jail and hold you hostage. And so now you're stuck there. And then some of those people have been there for more than a year. And the UN comes out every time this happens and condemns. Oh, we condemn the taking of hostages from our UN mission, but the world doesn't really do much about it. It's like there's not that much of an international outcry. President Trump hasn't gotten involved to try to get those people released. You can bet if any of those hostages were Americans, we would be involved, but they're not. And so those poor guys just languish in probably the worst conditions humanly possible that you could even imagine. Absolutely terrible conditions. So that's just really sad. I mean, it's unbelievable that this sort of thing continues to happen. So I'm going to try my internet and see if I can get the decent internet back, see if it came up. And okay, looks like we got pretty serious internet outages happening around here. And from what I see, they're happening all over the globe. So I guess we can't complain too much. So uh, anyway, like I said, please hit the like button, everybody, and let us know where you're coming in from. So we'll have to stay on my cellular uh, connection for now. That's not great because I mean one of the reasons that I got the Starlink was because the cell connection here that leaves a lot to be desired. Let's see if I can raise that up a little bit. Maybe get a better signal. Yeah, we don't have great cell service right here. So I'm back. Okay. Anyway, folks, so again, talking about these hostages, uh, the Houthis, where are we here? They're claiming that these UN World Food Program people are uh, committing espionage against Yemen, that they're spies for the Jews. I mean, that is the lamest excuse I've ever heard because it doesn't take a rocket scientist to know that the UN doesn't have any love lost for the Israelis, and there's no way the UN would ever do anything to try to assist the Israelis. So all they're trying to do is just feed the people in Yemen, and the Houthis are like, nope, can't do that. You guys are spies, and so they're you know, just taking them hostage. So it'll be interesting to see with these new airstrips that are being put in, and the Houthis continuing to fire rockets and missiles at and drones at Israel. When Israel struck in Gaza yesterday, actually have some video of that as well. Uh, they This is dropping a lot of frames here. Oh, man, internet is really bad today. Uh, the IDF is constructing the yellow line. So if you recall, whoa, that got too big. Let's make that smaller. This is why I need a producer to take care of this stuff for me. This is the yellow line in Gaza. Actually, I got that kind of upside down. I'm not sure why that's upside down. Let's see if I can spin it around so it's the right direction. Do this. There we go. Okay. So that red area is the area that Israel is still occupying. They're still controlling. And the brown area in front of the yellow line is essentially the size of Gaza now. So all 2.5 million Gazans have got to cram into that area now. And the IDF over the last couple of days has been striking at Israel, multiple different places in the south of Gaza, in the north of Gaza, in the center of Gaza. They had, I think, 2 IDF soldiers who were killed. Those 2 soldiers, it was in an IED attack. There were 4 more that were wounded. Uh, there was a group of Hamas fighters that was walking toward the yellow line, armed, obviously coming to attack the IDF. And so the IDF just smoked them before they got there. I have let's see here. I have some video of the strikes. So Israel struck very hard at various sites around um, Gaza. This is from Gaza yesterday. And you can see all across the front there, they're striking lots of different places. They probably struck 100 different targets yesterday in Gaza. And this is in response to the, violations of the ceasefire that Hamas did. Now, is that the ceasefire has not collapsed? I don't know. And what do you call this? Do you call this collapsed? I mean, to me, that looks like the ceasefire has collapsed. Here's these armed Hamas operatives. Very bad video, by the way. But we can tell that they're armed, they're masked, they're wearing black. And Israel smokes a couple of them with a drone strike here in a minute. Those are coming right toward the yellow line, and they got unalived by Israel. Uh, so Israel says the ceasefire has not been broken. A ceasefire to me means that you're not shooting. You're not shooting. In this case, yesterday in Gaza, the Hamas fighters were shooting at the IDF. They killed a couple of them, as I said, and the IDF was retaliating. So the IDF came out with a statement and said, that's not actually the end of the ceasefire. We're still willing to uphold the ceasefire as long as Hamas does what it promises to do. But in whatever event that Hamas does not do what it has promised to do, then we will strike back. And so everything that Israel is doing, they claim, is retaliation for ceasefire violations by Hamas. Now, they asked President Trump on Air Force One yesterday if he thought that the ceasefire had been broken, and here's what he had to say.
What's your reaction to Israel strikes on Gaza today?
Well, we're going to have to see what's happening. We want to make sure that it's going to be very peaceful with Hamas. And as you know, they've been quite rambunctious. They've been doing some shooting, and we think maybe the leadership isn't involved in that. Some rebels within, but either way, it's going to be handled properly. It's going to be handled toughly, but properly.
Is the ceasefire still in place?
Yeah, yes.
That's what you would expect President Trump to say. Yes, the ceasefire is still in place because it's kind of his signature achievement so far in his administration. I guess. I mean, in diplomatic speak, you could say, yeah, the ceasefire is not broken, even though everybody's shooting at each other. Okay, all right, we'll go with that then. They've been doing that in Lebanon as well, by the way. The ceasefire that the Biden administration brokered between the Lebanese army and the IDF, or actually the Americans and the IDF. The Israelis have been striking in Lebanon virtually every day since that ceasefire was announced in Lebanon. So, and Israel just says, no, this is not breaking the ceasefire. We're just retaliating for ceasefire violations by Hezbollah, which don't have to mean shooting missiles at Israel. They can be just digging tunnels or bringing in weapons or coming south of the Litani River. And Israel has eyes on everything that's happening in Lebanon. And when they see things that they consider to be violations of the agreement that they made with the Lebanese government, they take those things out. And they took out an arms depot the other day. I wish I still had the video. It was spectacular. I mean, it was one of the largest explosions I think I've ever seen. So they are working to keep Hezbollah on the back foot so that they can't regroup and attack Israel. There has been some chatter going around that there may be an attack on Israel out of Hebron, specifically part of what they call the West Bank. The border police in Israel yesterday captured like 122 Palestinians that were illegally sneaking across the fence into Israel proper. Now, they didn't say they found any weapons on these guys, and it's very likely that they were coming in for work or maybe for criminal purposes, steal cars and stuff like that. But all it takes is one. They don't all have to be terrorists. All it takes is just one. And if 122 of them came across in a group, they must have thought that that it was doable. Obviously, they wouldn't have come if they knew they were going to get arrested. But we see this a lot out of Judea, Samaria, and Hebron, where Palestinians are cutting holes in the fence and weaseling their way through, coming in illegally into Israel, mostly to find work. This is the Israeli equivalent of Mexicans jumping the fence into California to come pick tomatoes or something. And uh, there are apparently still Israeli companies that are hiring these people, somehow giving them jobs. It could be that they are working for Arab Israeli companies, or they're working for people that live in East Jerusalem that have a construction company or a bus company or something like that. But it's concerning that they're finding that many people coming across illegally. And as they do that, um, they're hearing chatter over their signals intelligence gathering networks that is saying that they may see a large scale October 7th style attack coming out of Judea, Samaria, and Hebron at some point in the near future. So we're just going to have to keep an eye on that. We don't really know, um, how much we're going to, how whether or not that's going to happen. Okay, so I've got this one. I showed you the strikes, showed you the maps. Okay. Uh, Now the IDF is loud. The IDF is actually constructing a an legit yellow line, like an actual yellow line. Uh, you can see there it's a D9 dozer, and it's pulling a bunch of concrete barriers that have been painted yellow. And they're doing that because they're actually demarcating the yellow line with a real yellow line, so that the Palestinians will know where they can't go, know where they can cross. Now, apparently, there are still some Palestinians that are behind that yellow line in the area that's controlled by Israel. Some civilians that are refusing to leave, and Israel keeps putting out the word like you really need to leave. There's we're going to be tearing this place apart, and they haven't yet. So there's that. Just have to see what happens there as well. Okay, one other thing I wanted to get to today is many of you have been sending me messages about this. A 33-year-old Palestinian man named Mahmoud Amin Yaqub al Muqtadi. Say that 10 times fast. Mahmoud Amin Yaqub al Muqtadi. I wonder if he was like 30 before he could write his name completely. That's a long name. Anyway, he was arrested by the FBI in Lafayette, Louisiana on the 17th of this month, 3 days ago, on charges related to his alleged participation in Hamas led attacks on Israel on October 7th. This is a guy who actually took part in the October 7th attacks, and he's in the United States. Now, you probably have heard about this story already, so I'm just kind of hitting the high points here. But this guy's a Palestinian immigrant from Gaza. He's been living in Louisiana. He came after October 7th, which begs the question, why in the heck are we letting Palestinians out of Gaza emigrate to the United States at all, ever? I mean, that's insane. This guy allegedly lied on his visa application about his involvement in terrorist activities because there's a question on the visa application that says, "Are you a terrorist?" And he put no. I mean, why did they even put a question like that? Does anybody ever check the yes box on that one? Yes, I'm a terrorist and I would like a visa to the United States. I mean, why bother putting a box on there that everybody is going to check no, and even the ones who should check yes? I mean they're just going to lie about it. But at the time of his arrest, this guy was reportedly working in a local grocery store and living on a forged visa. So I don't know if he lied on his visa and he got a visa or he forged a visa. There's different reporting on that. According to the Justice Department, this guy Al Mutadi entered Israel on October 7th with the explicit intention of assisting Hamas in the attacks. His cell phone location data that they got off of him reportedly places him at the scene of the massacres. He's described as having armed himself and organized a group of people to cross from the Gaza Strip into southern Israel to participate in the violence. And so it doesn't say that he's affiliated with Hamas. It just says he was just a guy who got a bunch of other guys together and armed themselves and came in and started killing Israelis. And that lines up with much of the intel that we've got out of the October 7th attacks, which shows that affiliated groups like the PIJ and a bunch of civilians all took advantage of the attacks to come into Israel and loot and pillage and rape and kill and take hostages. So he was taken into custody by the FBI 3 days ago. Uh, Charges include visa fraud, lying about terrorist affiliations, and potential material support to designated terrorist organization. Prosecutors cited cell phone geolocation data as key evidence linking him to the attack. The Justice Department emphasized that he participated in the Hamas-led assault. The broader implications of this highlights, the concerns over people that were involved in October 7th entering the United States under false pretenses during the Biden administration. Uh, some other reports say that they believe that many similar individuals may have entered the country. And so this was not being widely reported during the Biden administration, but apparently the Biden administration was issuing visas to people from Gaza after October 7th and allowing people to leave Gaza and come to the United States to live. Now, I knew that we were doing that to some extent uh, with people who needed medical care, uh, and were coming to the United States to get medical care. But I did not know that that was happening, that the Biden administration was allowing just regular Gazans to come into the United States during that time period as well. That is egregious. I mean, that is massive. That's a big deal. And we ought to be beating that drum a whole lot more in the media. So I'm going to be looking into this some more. I was trying to see here. So everything that I'm giving you is based on publicly available reports out there, and so we'll see what happens when they arraign this guy, and hopefully we'll get more information about him. I've reached out to a congressman friend of mine from Louisiana to see if he can get any more information for me on that, and I will let you know. So, meanwhile, I mentioned that Iran has signaled that it's going to try to strengthen its ties with the Houthis. That means they're going to send more weaponry to the Houthis to shoot at Israel. Israel and other coalition countries have so far stopped, I think, 3 ships coming from Iran to the ports of Hodeidah or Sana'a, completely full of hundreds of tons of military equipment, specifically missiles and missile parts. So uh, it's obvious that Iran is definitely trying to continue that relationship. Also, there were 2 incidents in the Red Sea over the last week. There was a Cameroon flagged LPG tanker called the MV Falcon, which caught fire 2 days ago off the Gulf of Aden. Um, and they're trying to salvage that ship now. Uh, Maritime authorities are monitoring it. The cause remains unconfirmed. Early indications point to an onboard explosion rather than a Houthi attack, but it's under investigation. Hard to believe that uh, that ship. Now, I saw one report that said this particular ship was actually bringing LPG gas to the Houthis in Yemen, and so it may have been struck by Israel or somebody else in the Red Sea to keep that from happening. But I don't know. I mean, that's still under investigation. And I don't know if you heard about this. This is about a month old, but there was a mass casualty event off the coast of Yemen when about 70, well, we know for sure about 76 people drowned. These were Ethiopians who were trying to migrate illegally to someplace, not sure where. Maybe they were heading up into, they were in a boat trying to get to Qatar or someplace like that. But they say that there are still dozens of people missing off of that boat that capsized it was August 4th when that happened. So that was a couple months ago. So, all right. Now, we've been on for about 40 minutes. I'm going to go take a look at the questions, see if I can answer questions. Folks, don't forget to hit the like button. And make sure you're subscribed to the podcast. Also want to point out that you can go over to chuckholton.com and get early access to a lot of our content, stuff that we put up on YouTube will sometimes go up early over on locals. So you want to go over to locals, you can get written summaries of everyday's lives as well. And so highly recommend you check that out. Okay, so I've got the questions up here. Nitro Muse says, Chuck, you're a journalist. Why would you get demonetized for reporting on famine? The reason I said that I would get demonetized if I showed you the famine is because it had a bunch of naked little children that look like skeletons with skin on them. Really, really graphic, you know, portrayal of kids starving to death, laying on the ground, can't get up, laying in their own filth, stuff like that. So if I showed you that on YouTube, I could tell you about it. But if I showed you that they would definitely kick me off. Adrienne says, "Is that the Sunni Shia fighting?" I'm not sure what you're referring to there, Adrienne. I'm sorry. Noam NKW, thank you for that 30 shekels. UN is giving aid for Yemen through the Houthis, and even with a lot of people speaking up about this, Their answer is, yeah, but that's the only thing we can do. Yeah, they could not operate in Houthi controlled areas without giving the aid through the Houthis. They do that in countries all around the globe. The UN has no problem dealing with extremely bad people uh, as they try to get aid into places which, you can make a case for that, or you could make a case against that. I can see both sides of that argument. But, for example, getting aid into Haiti. So if they want to get aid into Haiti, they have to go through the gangs at this point, and the gangs are likely going to take a bunch of that for themselves, or are going to confiscate the aid and then sell it to their people and use the money to buy weapons and stuff like that. There's a lot of we could talk for a long time about how aid ends up making these wars and disasters worse rather than better. And when helping hurts is a very good book about that, and I highly recommend you read it. Uh, Greg Matson says if they spent half that weapons money on food, there wouldn't be any starvation, would there? That's true. If Iran wanted to send the Houthis money and they would use it to buy food, there wouldn't be hungry. Maricopa Joe says, "What are your thoughts on the Witkoff Kushner 60 Minutes CBS interview?" I think that Witkoff is a very unskilled negotiator. He's a real estate lawyer. And why he has been put in charge of every negotiation around the globe that President Trump is trying to be involved in is beyond me. He might be able to handle one of those negotiations, but there's no possible way any single person could handle all of those negotiations. And Steve Witkoff is not that good of a negotiator. What he ends up doing is going and sitting down with some of the worst people on planet Earth, like Vladimir Putin. Putin then opens Steve Witkoff's head and dumps a bunch of Russian propaganda in there, closes it back up, and turns Witkoff around, sends him back to President Trump. Witkoff then regurgitates all of this propaganda to President Trump, and President Trump goes, "Oh, well, you're my trusted advisor, so I guess that's right." The things that I've heard Witkoff say about the war in Ukraine, about the war in Israel, about the other conflicts that he's tried to negotiate, tell me that Witkoff doesn't know his butt from a hole in the ground when it comes to international diplomacy. Kushner is a little better. At least Kushner is very pro-Israel. Um, I mean, Witkoff claims to be pro-Israel, but he just is. He's so bad at negotiation. It's really it's frustrating to watch, and so that's my comment on that. Diane Britson, how you doing? Says if U.S. Daily Mail is at top of up-to-date data, and we aren't in the biz where to read international news in English. Go to Jerusalem Post, or go to Israel Hayom. Those are two good sources for stuff about Israel. If you want stuff about other places, you can go to understandingwar.org. That's a good place. You can go read about what's going on in the world. So try those three. Nico 101 says, have you seen the video of Tommy Roberts was shown 10% of the real videos? He broke into tears. And do you think the world should see the videos? I've seen the videos that Tommy Robinson saw. Uh, he- and you don't want to see those. These are videos from the October 7th attacks, uncensored, uncut videos filmed by the terrorists of them raping and murdering people uh, in cold blood. And look, I saw it, and you don't want to see it. I'm just telling you right now, you can't unsee that stuff. And so there were a lot of journalists in the theater where I saw it who were in tears when that thing was over. So they were. It is horrific. And should we show it? Well, it is available now. Uh, Prime Minister Netanyahu was wearing a button the other day that had a QR code on it that you could scan that QR code and it would take you to a website that would show you those videos. But I wouldn't recommend it. Just take our word for it. It was horrific. Irene Trujillo says, do you think by any chance they may have any live hostages that they may be lying? I think there's a very, very small chance, Irene. I hate to say that. but Israel has pretty good intel on what's going on in there, and I think there's a very low chance that any of those people are alive. Isaiah says, Chuck, someone asked in Portuguese if you have any information on the Venezuela and Colombia versus USA conflict. I'm going to do a whole live about that later this week. So we'll talk about that then. But yes, I've got more information on that. Lord Peanut says, at some point, can you please do a video about the situation in the UK? I keep thinking I will go to the UK and try to report on the situation there, but I probably will get arrested if I go to the UK just for being there. The UK is not a free country. Pam Pam says, did Saudi Arabia just join the Abraham Accords? They just said that they're willing to join the Abraham Accords. They have not signed yet to do so. I thought at the beginning that they were the original country that was involved in the Abraham Accords, but apparently they've just been sort of dancing around getting involved, and now they're ready to sign on the dotted line. That may get that I think got sort of derailed when Israel started striking Gaza again. And once the war is definitively over in Gaza, I think you'll see a lot of those countries come into the Abraham Accords. Brenda Brinkman says Gazans should walk toward the IDF with white flags. No, Gazans should not approach the IDF at all. Renee, do they know for sure he didn't come through for medical help at that time and for some reason was just not sent back? Uh, that is not what the reporting is saying. That you're talking about this Al Muqtada guy that was arrested by the FBI. Uh, I've not seen any reports that said he was coming to the U.S. for medical help. Nancy Coetzee says, does Tehran still have water problems? Yes, they do. PC says, if the ceasefire does collapse, what will come then? Israel will go back into Gaza and will finish the job, hopefully. Be a lot more fighting. And the yellow line will be superfluous because Israel's going to take over everything in Gaza. Dillard says they have taqiyya that allows them to lie about Sunni or Shia. All of it's bad. What's up with Qatar? Does one of our acronyms run Qatar behind the curtain? No. One of our three-letter agencies does not run Qatar. Qatar has a tremendous amount of wealth, oil wealth, and they are trying to influence public opinion around the world and make people think that they are a moderate Muslim country. They're not. They're not a moderate Muslim country. They support terrorism in many ways. Al Jazeera, which is Qatar-run state media, is without a doubt supporting Hamas. They were employing some Hamas fighters at the beginning of the war before they kind of got kicked out. Several of the journalists who have been killed in Gaza were working for Al Jazeera as press in the daytime, and at night were fighting with Hamas. And of course, Al Jazeera, everything they report is going to be pro-Hamas, pro-Palestinian, etc. All right. So, all right. So I think that is all we've got for today. I'm really sorry about the uh, quality issues with the stream. There's not a whole lot I can do about that. It's just, it looks like there is a cyber attack that's going on in around the globe that's affecting internet. But I'm going to definitely check on that. I may have to just always have a Starlink. Starlink seems to be the only real reliable internet service that we can get. So thank you for all of you who helped to supply me with the Starlink. And if you want to help me keep paying for that thing, because it's about $300 a month now, you can go to chuckholton.com and become a supporter. Over there, it's $9 a month. And buy me a coffee. And well, I mean, I was in Chicago yesterday and I paid almost $9 for a coffee. So, yeah, buy me a coffee every month and I'll be able to continue paying for that. We also use that obviously to help a lot of people around the globe. We have been helping, we just were able to help some more people in Panama. My wife is kind of in charge of, helping people with the money that we get from the locals page. And she does a great job of finding and following and taking care of all of these needs. And we don't bring all of them to you, but so the big ones like the girl with cystic fibrosis, you all raised about $30,000 for her in just a matter of days so that she could get the stem cell treatment that she needed. And her parents are just over the moon. So thank you all for all of you who support the podcast in any way, whether it's donations here on YouTube, being a supporter on YouTube, being a supporter on locals, sending money through the link tree, or any other way. We try to do the best we can with it and help as many people as possible. So we appreciate all of our supporters, and we especially appreciate our mods. So thank you very much, moderators, for keeping the chat nice. All right, folks, that's all I got for today. Thank you very much for watching.